3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you go reducing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like that. Sindio? So we're about to start. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes. Twende kazi. And in 3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Uh-huh. Okay, and then okay, we're not done. We're not done. Actually, no. Stop taking your chairs. I need us to face each other. I need like a straight line here, and then you guys face this side, and then you guys face this side for about in the next 5 minutes before we start. Face these people. You face these people. We're going to play a game called tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe. I point at you, I say tick, you point someone to say tack, the other person points another person to say toe. Are you getting? Yes. For example, if I say tick, he says tack, toe. Tick, tack, toe, okay? So we are starting. Tick. Exactly, wait. That's an example run. Now, and if you waste sit down. Have a seat. Let's start again. Tick. Tick. Sit down. Have your seat. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating. Let's go again. Tick. Tick. You mepotea. Okay, let's go again. Tick. Have a seat. Thank you very much for participating. No, we are still standing. Acheni kukaa. Tick. No, you point at someone. Sit down. Have a seat. Just find a chair. Find a chair and sit down. Yes, you. Find a chair and sit down. Okay, let's go again. Chemu, tick. Yes, kindly just have your seat. Let's go again before we sit down and continue. Tick. Have a seat. Thank you very much. Let's have our seats before we start. At this juncture, I will welcome Madam Jennifer to continue with the program. Thank you very much.
Just give me a minute. I was trying to like scream for those guys who are not here.
Okay. So as we wait for Jennifer, we can do a little bit of karaoke. Do you know what that is? Singing. Who would love to sing? I know my voice is amazing, but let me not showcase it today. Let me just put it down for today. Who would love to sing? Thank you very much. A round of applause. A round of applause again. A round of applause. Thank you very much. Now this is what... Yes, karibu sana.
Any song?
Yeah, any song.
Okay. Thank you. I just thought you... Sawa. I'm going to sing a song by Sauti Sol because I really like Sauti Sol.
Let's stand.
Yeah.
Let's stand. And we're starting again.
Okay. I don't know how it starts though.
You started well.
Okay. Oh, Susanna, I hope you're happy now. I see you flexing on the ground with your sponsor. Susanna, I hope you're happy now. I see you on your skin color and your hair is longer now. Nakuona pai hapo Rio de Janeiro, eh. Ukiongezewa nywele senje, none of my business. And I see you in London with the latest designer, shaking what your mama gave you. On your worst behavior, Susanna Banes Senje. Hello. Somebody loves you. Senje. Hello. Change your mind and come back home. Somebody loves you.
Thank you so much. Let's have our seats. At this juncture, I think Ms. Jennifer is ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Omar. And that's what it's called child participation, okay? Is it? Yes. That one? A child coming and making you guys dance on his behalf? Is it? Right? Omar is not 18. He's just finished school. So that's why he's hanging around with us. So I'm just going to go through the program very fast. Apologies. We are trying to save trees, so we do not print out. So I'm hoping every one of us got the program, right? If you're here, you registered. And if you registered, we sent the program. So I'm just going to go through the program very quickly, and will allow me to be here and be there because I'm scrolling from my computer. So we are going to start with introduction, which I'm going to do, and the objectives. And then we are going to have Mr. Elijah Bonyo from World Vision come and tell us about the context of Kenya child participation. And then, sorry, Janet Momo was not available, but Mr. Mwamakobe is going to be here from NCCS, who is going to speak. And then we have ADM from the committee coming speaking about the guidelines. It is their document and telling us why, what is the rationale, what are the implications to member states, what do we need to do. And then Yvonne is going to come and help us to go through, both Yvonne and Adiam are going to go through the document step by step, just so that we're able to understand. Then we're going to have a group work, because we don't want this to be a talk shop. You know, we come, we speak, and then we go. We want to be able to come up with a document that we can be able to present to the committee, and NCCS will be able to adapt it where we are going to be able to implement, okay? Start implementing the guidelines. So that, in short, is our program. So, and I'm going, because I still have the mic, I'm going to jump into the objectives. The objectives of this workshop are: 1, to be able to understand the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare guidelines on child participation. They have just been released. They were adopted in March, and they have just been released. They are available. I sent a link to everybody. They can be accessed at the acrwc.africa/resources. Is it resources or guidelines? Adiam is going to tell us. I'm not sure if it's resources or guidelines. You can find them. They are there. Please go read. It's a very it's an amazing document. I'm privileged, myself, Yvonne, and a colleague herself, we are going to be meeting later in the afternoon, Dr. Elvis, we were privileged to work on them. It's an amazing document. And then, so that is for us to be able, and then come up with a strategy, okay? A plan on how to contextualize and to make these guidelines a reality. It is good to have a document, but if you don't implement it, it's not going to have an impact on children. So one of the key objectives on this is, by the time we are leaving at 1 o'clock, we'll have something, okay, that NCCS can be able to adapt very quickly, and we can be able to submit to the committee and say, Kenya, as the Kenyan people, this is something that we are doing. So because of time, I'm just going to, where is Bonyo? He was here. So as Bonyo is coming, he's supposed to give us a context of the workshop. So So he's going to give us the context of child participation in the country. How is it happening? How can we be able to improve on it? What is happening? What is not happening? And then Mr. Mwamakobe is going to give us, and what are the gaps? What do we need to do? Okay, and this, because now we know the problem. This is where the guidelines are coming to cure some of the challenges that we are having, and then we come up with solutions. So he's on call. He's just told me to give me 1 more minute. So as we're going, you have just realized we didn't know each other. So as Bonyo is winding up, I'm just going to ask from this table, we go just one name, where you come from, and what is your favorite food. I'm going to start with Felix. What's your name? Where you work, and what is your favorite food? Yes.
My name is Felix. One name.
Yeah, you can say two if you are comfortable. But child participation, we always ask for one name, but you.
Thank you, because
Switch on the mic.
Good morning. My name is Felix Pilipili. I come from World Vision. My favorite food?
Yes.
That's a difficult question. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning once again. You know, that young man was entertaining us. He didn't look excited. You need to be more excited than you are. My name is Bonnie Elijah. I work for World Vision Kenya, and my favorite food is ugali and samaki.
Wow. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Desi Obacheso. I'm working with Center for Reproductive Rights. My favorite food, ugali and nyama choma.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. My name is George. I work for Accountability and Governance Associates Africa, a private consultancy firm. My favorite food is ugali and manado.
Ugali seems to be the trending thing. We'll go tell the hotel.
Good morning. Yeah, my name is John. I come from Equity Group Foundation. My favorite food is, unfortunately, everyone is saying ugali. Unfortunately, that's also my favorite. So ugali is number one.
Noted. Now we are going to tell the hotel.
So good morning, everyone. So my name is Martin Munyagia from Equity Group Foundation. My favorite food is mayai.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Moses Obongo from Thrive for Child. Actually, my favorite food, and it is mine. How I did that now is ugali mayai, but kwetu tunasemanga mayash, so that I can use just mayash, salad mayash, ugali mayash. I guess the favorite food here is egg. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jackie Kibani, representing Watoto Orange Network, and my favorite food is kideri.
Okay. Gideri has stopped. Ugali has stopped.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Judith Namasaka, working with African Divine Madare. My favorite food is ugali and chicken.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Shundu, and I work for German Doctor of Nairobi. You are based in Madare for it. My favorite food is gills.
Ugali.
Ugali, brown ugali. In Romana.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kenneth Chirche, and I'm a Keche here at the Kenya School of Law. And my favorite food is spaghetti and meatballs.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael. I'm from Consolation East Africa and Takada University College. My favorite food is ugali and choma.
Okay, ugali it is.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Wamakobe, working for the National Council of Child Services. My favorite food is samaki and ugali.
wondering, I'm very old and I'm attending youth convention. I'm Eda Seda from Nairobi Metropolitan Services. I'm representing Christine Yakamba from Kakamega. My favorite food is ugali and nyamachoma.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Mufani. I've lost my voice. I have a bad cold. I work for World Association of Girlfriends in Girls. My favorite food is the meat that the mom of us.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Rose, and I come from Anglican Church of Kenya. And my favorite food, I have to chapel and eat. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Opio Michael. I'm from Street Western Thomas. My favorite is chapati.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Edwin, Senior Counselor Supervisor in Kenya Counseling and Psychological Association. My favorite food is mokimo.
Well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Daniel Murakaro from Wakilisha Initiative at Kenyatta University School of Law, and we are glad to be here. My favorite food is ugali and all types of meat. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Chiego. I'm from Kenyatta University after what we are doing. And my favorite food is fish or chicken. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Beria Kanti Machino, and I'm from Kenyatta University and Wakili wa Watoto. And my favorite food is mocha. So that's basically asua and
I know a group of people. I'm not pointing anywhere, who will say they cannot survive without that. So go on. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Susan Maina. I'm from the Kenyatta University School of Law. I'm also part of Wakili wa Watoto, and my favorite food is anything that has chicken. Yes, thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Chemutai Naomi. I'm a Miss in Child, Kenya. My favorite food is chapati.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kai, Miss in Child, Kenya, and my favorite food is chicken.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria, also in Miss in Child, Kenya, and my favorite food is mashed potatoes.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nelly Spell from Kenyatta University School of Law. My favorite food is chips.
Wow. Nobody said chips. So, and if it was a kids, they would always be saying chips. Oh, this table. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Oh, this table. These ones are all pasua.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Miriam. I work with Jennifer, and my favorite food is mocha. Jennifer is pointing at us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Colin Sorona from Total News, ugali kama kawaida. Nyama kuku hapo ni sawa.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
I'm Omar Hamed, a child journalist at Total News. My favorite food is chips and smocha.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Amdavi from Total News. My favorite food, I think it's anything milky. Tea, yogurt, milkshake, mala, anything milky. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have people online, so I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourself. Okay, we are muted. Just unmute. Just give us a second. Okay, go ahead.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Athena Morgan. I am the Africa Regional Representative from the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. My favorite food is fish and ugali. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning. My name is Adela Damato. I work at the Secretariat of the African Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, based in Masiro Estate. My favorite food is kitbo, which is an Ethiopian traditional food. But from Kenyan foods, my favorite would be chapati. Thank you.
Thank you, Adiem. Next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yvonne Tapire. I'm an independent consultant who supported the development of the child participation guidelines. And my favorite food is macaroni and cheese. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, and everybody online. We really appreciate you guys. We are maybe getting more people, but because we wanted the room to be full before we share the link. I'm going to, have you introduced yourselves? This table? Okay, I didn't hear your food. Yeah, I didn't hear your food. I didn't hear you. So I'm just going to invite Elijah Bonyo from World Vision to come and speak a bit about the context, child participation in Kenya. Elijah? Send me your presentation. Okay. Their internet here has just gone off, so manage.
Good morning. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah, thank you very much. And like Jennifer says, my name is Bonye Elijah. I'm from World Vision, Kenya. And listening to how we are introducing ourselves, I'm happy that we have a constituency that we never interact with before. You know, when you hear a group saying, mimi ni wakili wa watoto, what does that mean? We are in the right place. Because many times we hear people saying, I'm a child participation practitioner. But we never hear, and I'm excited to have wakili wa watoto. And you really need more of wakili wa watoto. So this morning I want to talk about our context in Kenya. And I think 15 minutes max, Jennifer. And just to begin and remind us of what we know. Anytime we talk about child participation, let me see by a show of hands, how many people take care of children wherever they live, either as a caregiver or as a parent? Yes. So what we know, if you see what we are saying here, is that children are participating in their respective families or households. Are they engaging? So most of the time we talk about child participation, we forget that in our own households, children are participating and they're engaging, right? The second thing we know is that in the places of worship, again, children are participating and engaging. In our communities, children are participating and they're engaging. And of course, in the schools equally. So let's begin from there. So for those of us who indicated that they're taking care of children, over the last 1 week, I'm sure you've been having, whatever discussion you're having with the children you take care of, you know, it could be around food, it could be around clothing, it could be around going to school. They're participating and they're engaging. So we know that, right? But sometimes we imagine that participation is something out there and it's not in our households. So that's the first thing I want us to appreciate. However, from World Vision, we also know that children's views are not being considered in decision-making by government to the extent that would have wished to. So in 2017, in the program areas where we work in Kenya, we work in, if you want to make it sub-counties, or let me say 37 counties, and those 37 counties work in a number of sub-counties. So when we ask children whether their views are sought and considered in government decision-making, look at that. For every 100 children, only 11 felt that their views were being sought by government decision-making. Then moving forward into 2021, at least it increased to 25. So clearly, children are not being heard the way they wish to be heard in decision-making spaces. But apart from children, how are you being heard now that you are adults? I'm sure we have some experts here, but let me ask, how many of you feel your views are being considered in decision-making by government? By a show of hand. Nobody. Anyone who feels that their views are being considered by government at whatever level, whether local level, county level, national level. Yes, at least you have some. So you can imagine that we are here this morning to listen to the presentation from our colleagues from the AU on the guidelines for child participation. That's the key thing for today. But even before we go to the guidelines, where are we? Where are we as a country in terms of child participation? Now, we'll be happy to listen to any other stakeholder who has some data that can give us a basis as to where we are. So participation at the household level is important, participation in the community is important, participation in school is important, but what we are concerned about is as to whether whatever children are telling us or whatever children are telling government is being considered in decision making. So this is data that we have, and we are able to share this data categorized by counties, by boys and by girls, and even by age group, right? So why are they in that situation? One of it is because of inadequate preparation before you engage. That before children engage with government officials, are they adequately prepared to engage? And apart from that, do they have access to relevant information that will enable that engagement? Whatever information they need for engagement, do they have access with it in a child-friendly format? And of course, experts in the room will begin to talk about what is a child-friendly format of information. And that even if they were to access it, will they comprehend it? Will they understand it? You know? And lastly, are they aware of their right to engage? Some of them are not engaging with government because they're not even aware that they have a right to participation or a right to be heard. Some of the children are not aware that they have the right to engage government and demand accountability. Now, yes, we're talking about our children today, but how about ourselves? So sometimes it's good to balance between ourselves and children. In this room, let me see by a show of hands, anyone who has come across any data around those parameters. Are you able to see from the back? Is there anyone, whether from private sector, from academia, from civil society, or from government, that can confidently say that we know the proportion of children in this country who are aware of their rights to participate? These are the things we need to be asking ourselves this morning. Children who are meaningfully participating in their families, do we have that data? Children who are participating in public decision-making spaces. And then, those who have had an opportunity to engage in policy and lawmaking, in public planning, and other parameters. And do we have evidence that we can cite of the issues that are raised by children before in different spaces that they were given feedback? So as you sit here this morning, colleagues, yes, we're going to listen to the presentation of the guidelines, but I think we also have some basic things we need to find out amongst ourselves. If we really value child participation, how come we don't have data? And if this data is available, maybe Jennifer, you can advise us who has it. It will be good to appreciate where we are as a country. What we know further, and where people have learned some lessons, you hear most of us talk about child rights clubs in schools. Some of us talk about children government. Others talk about student council. Others talk about children assembly as some of the spaces for participation. Right? How many of you have children who are in primary school, by a show of hands? Either your own children or the children you're taking care of. Are they members of children clubs? Child rights clubs, for example, or you don't know? Right? So child rights clubs are some of the spaces that we know exist for participation, right? The Kenya Primary Schools Heads Association also has some guidance on children government that all schools, all primary schools are having something called children government. And then we have the Kenya Children Assembly that takes place at various levels, from local to sub-county to national. And then you have the Students' Council. And again, in this, most of the schools, we have children being represented in the boards of management schools. I don't know that you know that. And then in some communities, we also have children represented in area advisory council. So that's our situation. So the number of lessons we have learned around these spaces in terms of their effectiveness, their functionality, and the issue around legitimacy. So this is just basically where we are coming from. And we hope by the end of today, we'll have more clarity. Now, I want to bring this to another level. And in our own constitution, there are various provisions around participation. And it's important. How many of us, by the way, have a copy of the Constitution here? This is interesting. None. A copy of the Constitution of Kenya, even in your phone. If you don't have it, it's an app, the Constitution of Kenya. You can just download it. So sometimes when we talk about participation, it's good to appreciate that we have several provisions here that are important for us, right? So take your time and look at this later. We may not do that now. It's an important session for reflection if you really want to know where we're coming from. Tied to that, more provisions, several other provisions. I want to leave this with you because the substance today is the dissemination of the AU guidelines. But I'm just trying to say in our context, we have already various parameters that we need to reflect on as we talk about child participation. And most importantly, as I conclude, the state law office, the Office of the Attorney General, defines public participation as the process by which citizens, as individuals, groups, or communities, often known as stakeholders, take part in the conduct of public affairs, interact with the state and other non-state actors to influence decisions, policies, programs, legislation, and provide oversight in service delivery, development, and other matters concerning their governance and public interest, either directly or through freely chosen representative. The big question is, are children citizens? Are they? Are children members of the public? Are they? Are they people? Is public participation the same as child participation? Yes. If yes, why? And if no, why? The point I'm making, if you go to a Bill of Rights, those who have the Constitution, look at it later. There's an appreciation that we need to recognize. When it comes to participation, carefully read our Constitution again. The right to participation that Jennifer has as an adult is no different with the right to participation that Omar has as a child. If you want to decide to separate them, then you are part of the problem. So anytime you're advancing our rights to participation as adults, we must advance the right to participation of children with the same passion. So from our vision, it's our commitment to support child participation moving forward. Child participation is one of our core business in this country. And depending on the deliberations in this meeting, I would like to take further this discussion to where the children are. Children are not here with us, except the moderator. Did you know he was a child? Please rise up. Did you know he's a child? Please come. You know, nothing for children without children. Our moderator today, this is a child. I'm sure you're wondering why he's not in school. He's not in school because he already completed school. He just did his KCSE the other day. Are you together? So when you see him here moderating for us and exciting us, a round of applause for Omar. So we want to plead with you that any child participation event, let the moderator be a child because they can do it and he has shown that they can do it. Tuko pamoja? And there are children who completed KCSE and they're at home. So when you have an event like this, invite them to engage directly. That is what child participation is. I thank you very much for listening, and back to you.
I'm going to take Omar's job and invite Mr. Makobe from the National Council for Children's Services, and he can give us his take from government perspective on child participation, and probably can mention where the child participation guidelines are right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Good morning. Morning once again. Yeah, as Jennifer said, my name is Alex Wamakobe, and I'm not Janet Mwema, as the program has shown. Neither do I have her presentation, but I'll just talk one or two things, if you'll allow me, for that matter. As she said, I come from the National Council for Children's Services, and the National Council is a government entity formed under Section 32 of the Children's Act, with the sole purpose of exercising general supervision over the control, coordination, and financing of child welfare issues, and also advising the government. One of the key issues as NCCCS that we are mandated to do as per the Children's Act is designing of policy, that's policy formulation. And I believe that's why we are here, Jennifer. That's why I invited, because of that. So it's just to appreciate the gesture that Mtoto News gave NCCS. And for information, we work hand in hand with Mtoto News in almost all aspects. Where we have functions, you'll find Mtoto News there. When Mtoto News has functions, you'll find NCCS there. So we work hand in hand. Not only Mtoto News, but also World Vision Bonyo. We also appreciate your support that you give us. You'll also agree with me that child participation guidelines were first formulated, if I can remember, in 2006-7 there, and launched in 2008. And from then, we've had a lot of milestone, I believe, in terms of engaging children, listening to their views, and basically hearing from them. And as a council, we try as much as possible to ensure that all policies designed or formulated must have an aspect of child participation in them, all of them, ideally. So we hold children dear. Basically, those are employers. Children are employers, and we appreciate that. But nevertheless, there are maybe just one or two issues that I would like to share, which maybe should provoke our discussion, or even you can carry them further ahead in further conversations as far as child participation is concerned. One, you are aware that the Constitution of Kenya to 2010 brought in two levels of government. That's the county and the national government. And when it comes to child participation, without blowing my trumpet, I'll say the national government is trying. It's trying, though we are not there, but we are almost there. Maybe the ball would be in the county government as far as child participation is concerned. County government are basically semi-autonomous government, mini governments on the ground, and the law allows them to come up with their own laws, policies. The challenge is, as they develop the policies, are the children there? Maybe we need to ask ourselves, are children involved? Maybe that's the elephant in the room. How do we engage them in ensuring that we get children's views on board? The other day we visited a county, and we were being told that they had come up with a child protection policy, which they're almost now going to pass through their parliament, the county parliaments on the ground. Then we asked them, did you involve children? They told us no. And there's a child protection policy. So we urge them that there's need to involve children before they can even take it to validation. So lucky enough, at least they had us, and lucky enough, again, they had funds. So they organized for children to participate and give their views in that policy document. But that's just one county government. Out of the rest, are they involving children? Maybe we need to think along those lines. And even as we engage children, I like Bonyo's statistics here. He brought out things in a very clear manner. Are we engaging all children? Maybe we need to ask ourselves. I'm looking at that girl in a place called Tarbach. Tarbach is Wajir, up there. Is she really engaged when it comes to participation? Or we assume that when you take a girl from Wajir town, she's talking on behalf of the girl from Tarbach. I'm talking about children from marginalized areas. How do we engage them? Maybe just to provoke our thoughts along those lines. Then thirdly also, along the same lines, children with special needs. Many times in child participation forums, we have them there, but are they really? I'm talking about that child from Joyland School in Thika, that child from Joyland School in Kisumu. Do we really hear from them? We are challenged because of maybe lack of braille, lack of sign language interpreters. Just again to provoke our thoughts. And these are discussions that we can carry further, not just necessarily here, but further as we move along. Then I don't know that that's third or fourth, my point, just thinking through. The need to appreciate technological challenges. And here I'd like to again to thank and appreciate Mtoto News for engaging technology. They're doing a good thing. Because in forums that we had with them, we've had kids from Kakuma, from the other place is called, which the refugee camp, Dadaab, giving their views. So we need also to appreciate that technology is advancing, and we appreciate it and also utilize it to ensure that we get kids' views. For information, children are good in social media. I believe so. How do we tap that in order to hear from them and get their views? Then lastly, I don't know whether I've exhausted a lot of them. Yes, as we engage children in participation, as we develop policies, do we ensure that the children get back views? Once we formalize the policies, do we ensure that they get back feedback? Yes, we said, but did our views, were they considered? How sure are you as children that the views are considered? The only way out is to give us back those documents in a child-friendly manner. So whatever policy documents we come up with, we need also to translate them into child-friendly documents and ensure that they get the child on the ground. So those are the issues that maybe as we discuss, as we think along these guidelines, we now as Kenyans, as we domesticate, because I'm sure that the guidelines that we're talking about today, we need to domesticate them. How do we capture all these aspects? And maybe it's also good to don't note that the guidelines are coming at a very opportune time. I'm sure, Mr. Bonyo, you are aware that we had intended to review our child participation guidelines. And now with this on board, this should also help shape us in terms of the review of the Kenyan child participation guidelines. And I believe they'll help enrich the child participation guidelines. So as we sit, deliberate, as we talk, let's talk knowing that, yes, what can we do to ensure that children are reached all over the country? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving us your views on child participation. I like how you've brought out the aspect of inclusivity, whereby we should include all children from Kenya and also around the continent. Thank you so much. At this juncture, I'd love to welcome Ms. Adiam Zemenfes from the Africa Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So welcome. Where is she? Oh, she's online. Okay.
Can I share my screen? Will I be able to share my screen?
Yeah, yes.
I hope you're able to see my screen and I'm also I believe. Good morning, everyone, once again. As I've been introduced, my name is Adiam. I work at the Secretariat of the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So I will, my task today is briefly to introduce to you the child participation guidelines, which has been adopted by the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and basically focus on the background, the rationale why it was adopted, and I believe my colleague word child participation also indicates how the guidelines integrate state obligation as well as the role of other stakeholders, and perhaps provide some concluding remarks. So just to provide you with a background on how the committee reached the
Adiam, please put in presentation mode because we can't see from here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So during the organization of the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, a presentation was made by Save the Children on the study that Save the Children conducted on mapping of child participation in Africa. So during that presentation, the committee was able to note some of the basic issues that were reflected from the mapping study, and this includes the committee noted that across the continent there is a lack of a systemic way of engaging children at policy level, but also at grassroots level. So this indicates that there is lack of laws and structures in which children are engaged in a formal manner. The committee also observed that there is lack of capacity to engage with children, to be able to accommodate children and listen to children. So involving children in child participation is a skill by itself, and it requires a certain capacity by government officials, but also other stakeholders to ensure that there is meaningful and effective child participation. So the committee observed that there was lack of capacity. The committee also observed that there is lack of child participation structures and processes, which also contributes to the lack of a systemic way of engaging children. The committee further ensure that there is proper engagement of children and that there is child protection and child safeguarding mechanisms on child protection. So there was lack of standards which would guide states, which would also guide the community itself on how children should be engaged and at what level children should be engaged. So lack of norms at continental but also at national level also contributed to lack of meaningful participation by children. Furthermore, the committee also observed that there was lack of opportunities to participate for children, particularly in marginalized communities and other vulnerable groups, for instance, children with disabilities, children in a conflict situation will have a very lower opportunity to participate than children living in urban areas where education is provided and where they'll be able to receive more skills on how they can participate. So during that session where the committee made the observations that I alluded to, the committee decided to develop child participation guidelines. So based on that decision, the committee started the process, and after quite numerous processes and review procedures, the committee finally adopted the guidelines during its 38th ordinary session, which was held in November 2021. So looking at the main objectives of the child participation guidelines, the main objective of the child participation guidelines is to provide guidance towards the realization of children's participation. So the right of children to their participation is provided under the various legislative frameworks at regional level, mainly the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child provides provisions to the rights of children for child participation. That's the charter which the committee is established to monitor. The committee monitors the implementation of the charter within states and there's a meaningful child participation requires guidance. As the committee observed that there was lack of norms and standards. So the main objective of the guidelines provides that guidance so that the committee itself, state and all the stakeholders are positioned in a greater way so that they can engage children. So specifically the objectives include to increase the committee's engagement with children by providing specific avenues and procedures through which children can actively participate within the mandate of the committee. So as the committee is delivering on its activities, the guidelines will enable the committee to make sure and to keep track that children are engaged in all its activities and functions that are entrusted to it by the charter itself. The guidelines also provide guidance to states on how they can ensure child participation at all levels, ranging from child participation at family level to national level, and what obligations are entailed is provided within the guidelines. So what are state obligations towards ensuring child participation at family level, at district level, and at national level. So these guidance is provided within the guidelines. The guidelines also provide guidance on norms and structures that should be set in place to ensure that there is child participation. So state parties should be able to provide norms, but also structures. It could be in different ways. So some countries might choose to opt for strategy, while others might opt for an action plan. It could also come as a law, but there should be some norm that will guide child participation. But not only norm, there should be also structure and institutional setup to ensure child participation. So guidance on what forms as norms and what forms as structures is also provided within the guidelines. The guidelines also highlight the role of the stakeholders and also provides an annex on child safeguarding measures that should be taken while we engage in children. So child participation, of course, is a very interesting concept. It is important to engage children, but it comes also with a risk. So the guidelines provide an annex where it provides for some child safeguarding measures that should be taken into consideration when we're involving children in our activities and engagements. The guidelines define child participation as this is a copy paste of what the child participation guidelines provide. It indicates that it's a child's right to freely take part, express views, lead, and be informed in all matters concerning the child. So this is, as you can see, a very broad concept, which includes the child's right to take part, but also to express, and even more to lead on matters that concern children. So these concepts are provided within the provisions of the Charter. So the guidelines are grounded by the provisions of the Charter as a charter that guides the works of the committee as the committee established to monitor the implementation of the provisions of the Charter. So looking at the Charter, you can see some of the provisions that actually lead into a definition of child participation, which is much broader. So the Charter doesn't have specific provision of child participation, but it has provisions with various provisions that will build up into the principle of child participation. So for instance, if we look at Article 4, Sub 2, Article 4 generally speaks to the best interest of the child, and within the best interest of the child, subsection 2 of Article 4 provides that child participation is part of the best interest of the child, and children should participate in all judicial and administrative measures that are of concern to them. So in issues, in any administrative and judicial matter that concern children, getting the views of children and ensuring child participation is actually one of the principles of the best interest of the child. And Article 7 of the Charter more broadly provides for freedom of expression, and this freedom of expression within the Charter is provided based on the evolving capacity of the child. So child participation and meaningful child participation definitely has to take into account the evolving capacity of the child, as it's very different for governments and all stakeholders in the community on how a 9-year-old child will be engaged and attain, or a 17-year-old child will be engaged. So the evolving capacity of the child is one of the principles that is enshrined within the freedom of expression that's provided under Article 7 of the Charter. Article 9 of the Charter on the rights and welfare of the child also provides for freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And Article 12 also contributes into the concept of child participation, and it provides for leisure, education, and activities. But within that provision, you find provisions which indicate that children should participate in cultural and artistic life and should be provided equal opportunity for recreation. So this also contributes to the right of children to participate meaningfully. Another very peculiar provision of the African Charter, which is not found in other child rights instruments, to the responsibilities of the child. And looking at all the sub-provisions of Article 31, which talks about the responsibilities of the child, we can observe that child participation is implied because it provides for the responsibilities of the child at family level, at national level, which is of course part and parcel of the right to child participation. So these provisions are binding provisions that the African Charter on the rights and welfare of the child is a binding instrument. So we have 50 state parties that have ratified the Charter, and all those 50 countries from the 55 countries that we have at the African Union level, it's a binding instrument to states have chosen to opt for. So participation. Furthermore, the African Committee has developed an African agenda for its children, which is the agenda of the African Union for the next 25 years, which is of course to be implemented by stakeholders, mainly countries. So the agenda has been adopted by the Executive Council of the African Union, which makes it an African Union agenda. So this agenda 2040 has 10 aspirations, and the 10th aspiration number 10, provides that children matter. And within the agenda, you can see that systematic structures for child participation are one of the agenda that is set for the continent to achieve by 2014. So this is somehow the legislative and the normative framework that builds the concept of child participation. Furthermore, within the African Charter, we have 31 substantive provisions, but all these provisions are to be implemented with 4 basic general principles. So generally, the Charter is implemented with 4 general principles. These general principles are not only general principles of the Charter, but the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child also adopts the same general principles. So the 4 general principles are the principle of non-discrimination, the right to life, survival, and development of children, the best interest of children, and child participation. So when we say that these are 4 general principles, what it indicates or what it implies is that all the provisions of the Charter are to be implemented, to be interpreted, and to be enforced by giving due consideration of these 4 principles. So, for instance, if we're implementing the right to education, the principle of non-discrimination applies in a way that the right to education should be provided with no discriminatory grounds. So all children, ethnicity and gender, should be provided the right to education. And it applies to all the other substantive rights. So these general principles guide the implementation of all the substantive rights. So you see that the right to child participation is a substantive right. It's also a general principle, which guides the implementation of other provisions. So when we're implementing the right to health of children, child participation is also a general principle which informs the implementation of that specific right to the right to health or any other right for that matter. So we define child participation as a substantive right by itself, but also as a guiding principle or as a general principle of the child. So this makes it very important for the committee to further expound and elaborate on the principle of child participation, and that's one of the reasons why the committee also decided to develop the child participation guidelines. So the child, the substantive aspect of the life, the right and the development of children, and the best interest of the child. So when we're providing child participation, when we're engaging with children, we have to make sure that the principle of non-discrimination is observed, which means that their children, where they live, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their status of disability, or even irrespective of the status of their parents, have the right to child participation. And child participation should ensure that it's towards the right to life, survival, and development of children. So no child participation should infringe on the right to development of the child, the right to survival and life of the child. So we have to provide some safeguarding measures on how we engage children. Also, child participation should be implemented in a way that it ensures the best interest of the child and not the best interest of any message that we want to say, but it should engage the best interest of the child. Another principle which the guidelines for child participation has tried to accommodate, which is not generally one of the general principles of the Charter, is the evolving capacity. So as I mentioned earlier, child child participation cannot be implemented without giving due regard to the evolving capacity of the child. Therefore, this has been also included as a guiding principle when it comes to the implementation of child participation within the guidelines. So the guidelines provide for how children should engage within the mandates of a committee and how children should be engaged by state parties. So I'm sure my colleague will go in depth on how children should be involved within the mandates of the committee. So in developing general comments or undertaking investigations. So the committee has various mandates that within the child participation guidelines, these are some of the mandates to which there has been provided a guidance on how children should be engaged within the mandates of the committee. Beyond the guidelines, the committee has also special mechanisms through which it deals with some thematic areas. So special mechanisms can come as special rapporteurs or working groups. Specifically on child participation, the committee has a special rapporteur. One of its committee members is designated as a special rapporteur on child participation. So this is also another avenue beyond the child participation guidelines on how the issue of child participation can be dealt with at regional level. So the special rapporteur has the mandate to issue resolutions, undertake country visits, lead on studies or general documents. So there is a designated special rapporteur on child participation, and stakeholders can also engage the special rapporteur for the guidelines and also the policy to further take towards the issue of child participation development. So the guidelines also provide and highlight on state obligation, what it entails for states to ensure that there is meaningful child participation, and some of these include for states to take or to establish normative frameworks to ensure that there is child participation, to provide an administrative and judicial proceedings, to ensure capacity building and awareness building, and also to ensure collaboration and coordination, and to allocate sufficient resources towards child participation. So from its various engagements, the committee has observed that there is lack of legal grounds and norms when it comes to child participation. In some of its follow-up missions or investigative missions, or when it's considering three-party reports, the committee actually observes that most child participation activities are actually made by partners, owned by partners, and they're usually donor-funded. So in some countries, you find, for instance, in Ghana, there is a framework for child participation, but there is no resource allocated from the government. So the process is now owned by other partners. So the child parliament is actually run by partners, while the legal framework provides for the government to lead on the process. So there is a need across the continent to strike a balance on who owns the process, and we have to note that states are the main intermediaries. Of course, collaboration and coordination is the obligation that we can entail from the concept of child. However, it's mandatory that states allocate sufficient budgets, proper institutional frameworks, and also normative standards to guide child participation. So the guidelines also provide for guidance on how other stakeholders such as business and private sector and media should engage children. So I will finish or I will conclude my presentation by highlighting some concluding remarks, so that we can observe that there is a need for there is a need to invest financially, technically, but also so instead of having an ad hoc form of participation, it's important that we start to institutionalize our child participation also to ensure that child participation is not less at the level of participation, but it looking at impact, where the outcome of child participation informs law, policy, and other measures that are taken by states. We should also ensure that there is accountability or some sort of monitoring mechanism towards child participation. So how we need to measure on how states are delivering on their responsibility towards child participation. And this can be done towards the accountability and monitoring framework that's available within the committee. So for instance, states are required to provide state party reports to the committee periodically, so that the committee is able to follow up the implementation of the provisions of the charter. So within this monitoring framework, within the state party reporting procedure, we should also be able to highlight how states are doing or how governments are taking measures to ensure child participation. And to supplement this procedure, we also have complementary reports that are created from civil society organizations, which can also highlight on how states are doing in terms of complementing the obligation of states to ensure child participation, so that we can also draw some best practices, document them, so that other countries in other regions can learn. Finally, I would say that, as I've also indicated before, responses should be sensitive to the patterns that exist within countries in terms of being culturally sensitive, so that we don't also find ourselves in a situation where communities would then prevent child participation. And as I've indicated, child participation has, it's not only a process, but we have to make sure that the participation of children is actually bringing impact when it comes to law, policy, and security. So the process should lead to changes in law, changing policy, or decision-making processes. That is it for me at this stage. Thank you very much for your attention. If there is anything that you want me to clarify, I'm willing to do so. Thank you very much for your attention.
You know, I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, man, we have a long way to go when it comes to child participation. Thank you so much, Adiam. Please share the slides so that we can share with the guys here and the guys who are following us online. Anybody with a question to Adiam? Anyone? Or you guys? Okay, come here. You have to come here because of the microphone.
Hi, Diam. I'm Ombi. My question is on the reporting cycles. Has there been any reporting, and particularly on child participation? Has any country begun all that you have spoken about? Has it begun? Has there been reporting on participation, and how has it been so far?
Thank you, Mombi. Anyone else with a question? Yes, George? Okay. George and then Bonya.
Again, my question is, when the committee makes visits to the countries, and if you take Kenya, for example, we have the national governments, and then we have the county governments, and then we have the sub-county, the wards. Now, my question is, does the committee make an effort to move out of the cities to go into the counties or even to the sub-county level? Thank you.
Thank you, George. Esh, okay. Just come here, come so that, because of the microphone.
Okay. On child participation, do you have the child participation tool when it comes to activities?
Tools, yeah?
Yes, tools.
Adiam, do you have tools for child participation? Felix, come here.
Mine is very similar to hers. I was just asking about considering the need to involve children in child participation. How practical is it, considering there's the issue of capacity, of whether they understand some of the things that they're being asked to participate in? So how do they practically involve children in matters of participation?
You know, the best thing, we have a child participation expert here from Save the Children. She is here. She can help answer some of these. I'm just helping you. Marilyn is here, Adiam, so she can help you to answer some of these questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Adiam, for the elaborate presentation. You mentioned about a special rapporteur for child participation. My question is, who is this rapporteur and how can we, as stakeholders, engage? Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? Or can she answer those ones and then we can do another round? Okay, Adiam.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the questions, and thank you for the very So I'll start from the first question of the report discussion. All the state parties that have ratified the African Charter or the Rights of the Child are required by the Charter to submit initial reports 2 years after ratification, and their periodic reports every 3 years thereafter. So within that reporting cycle, state parties are required to submit their reports on the implementation of the entire charter. So the reporting is organized in a cluster form. So one of the clusters for reporting is January 1st. They have indicated and are indicated that child participation is one of the general purposes, and it's clearly indicated in the outline of their reporting guidelines to state parties. So all states that meet their reports to the committee do actually provide information on how they are implementing child participation in their specific countries. So by the same way, the same clusters are followed by CSOs when they submit their complementary reports. So the complementary reports also provide information on how countries are implementing the concept or the principle of child participation. So for the report, of course, the committee notes that a lot has been done. Some countries have very strong institutional setup as well as legislative frameworks towards child participation. Mostly, some countries have child parliaments. So some countries will have child parliaments at national level, whereas other countries have child parliaments starting from district level to regional level to national level. So it depends. The range is very different countries to countries. Some countries may not even have child parliaments, so the committee would then recommend for principles that should be, or measures that should be taken to ensure child participation by setting up the necessary legislative framework as well as allocating resources. So countries do provide information and that reporting is ongoing. And based on the reports, the committee adopts or issues concluding observations and recommendations to state by highlighting some of the progresses that have been made in a way of documenting best practices and also providing measures that should be taken by states to further ensure the child participation at domestic level by providing various recommendations. So this is how it's been done at the reporting cycle. The other question was about country visits and whether or not the committee goes to county and sub-county levels. So it depends on what kind of country visit the committee is undertaking. So country visits can be undertaken for instance, to advocate for countries to report or to ratify the charter or to withdraw their reservations to the charter. It could also be conducted
for instance, to investigate a certain alleged violation of the charter, or to assess the situation of children in a certain context. It could be thematic based, it could be country based. So there are different kinds of country visits. The committee also conducts visits to follow up on the implementation of its decisions and its recommendations. So it really depends on what kinds of country visits that the committee is undertaking. Of course, there are, for instance, when the committee is undertaking investigation, the committee would definitely go into the county, or depending on the setup of, it could go into the regional and the province levels to gather information when it's undertaking investigation. However, if it's, for instance, a follow-up on its decisions and recommendations, it might engage with the line ministry that coordinates the implementation of children's rights across the country, so that it's able to get information on what's going on at national level, but also at domestic level. So it depends on the kinds of country visits it undertakes. But the idea is, when the committee even stays at the central level and engages with the central government, it reaches out to the coordinating organ, which is tasked with coordinating the implementation of children's rights across the country, so that it's able to get all the information that's needed, also including on what's going on at district, province, or county and sub-county levels. Does the committee have a child participation tool? So the guidelines that I've spoken about is one of the tools that the committee recently developed. So the child participation guidelines are guidelines both to the committee itself and to states and also other stakeholders. So it's the child participation guidelines that in a very detailed manner outline on how the committee engages children in delivering on its mandates, where the committee should engage children and how the committee should engage children. So for instance, within the state party reporting procedure, the guidelines provide that the committee should have a pre-session with children, and how the committee should take into consideration the outcome of that pre-session in its concluding observations and recommendations. So for all the other mandates as well, the guidelines provide procedures on how the committee engages children and what safeguarding measures should be put in place when the committee is engaging with children, and how the committee should also take into consideration the views of children. So the guideline is one of the basic tools that actually provides for guidance to the committee itself on how it should engage children, but also how states should engage children. So how do you engage children is another question that has been raised. So the guidelines provide more detailed provisions on how the committee engages children. But from the guidelines, what we've tried to do is to ensure that the committee engages children in delivering on all its mandates, be it a state reporting procedure, be it its communication procedure, where it receives complaints on alleged violations of the charter. So the committee has tried to have some guidance on how it should engage children in the communications procedure, and also on its investigative mandate, how the committee should engage children when it's undertaking, when it's commemorating the Day of the African Child at continental level, when it's developing its documents such as research, studies, and general comments. So all these activities and how children should be engaged is also included in the child participation guidelines. And based on those guidelines, the committee engages children in all these activities. So for instance, during the state party reporting procedure, the committee always provides for states to consult children even when they are compiling their reports, if possible, to bring children during the presentation of the report in one of the sessions of the committee, but also for CSOs when they're submitting complementary reports to bring children. The committee also brings forward children on that should be by the committee from the perspectives of children who can be taken into account by the committee when it's making its decisions during its session. So during the also, we always organize meetings with the child participation structures in place. If there's a child parliament, the committee holds meetings with child parliaments to get the views of children so that it's captured in its reports and it's reported to the executive council as well. So in all its undertakings, the committee tries to engage children, and the guidelines will actually better facilitate on how the committee should do. The final question was on the special rapporteur. So special rapporteurs are appointed for a term of 2 years. So every 2 years, the special rapporteur could change. Currently, the special rapporteur on child participation is Honorable Sidiku, who's from Niger. But once her term ends, then another special rapporteur would be appointed to replace her on this specific mandate. So if you go to the website of the committee on the special mechanisms page, you'd find how you can reach to the special mechanism. So there is a specific email address that's provided to which you can send an email to reach out to the special rapporteurs. And the secretariat is also available to facilitate whenever stakeholders wish to reach out to our special rapporteurs. I think I have responded to all the questions that have been raised, but if Marilyn or Yvonne also would want to add, I would hand over, but this is it from my side. Thank you very much.
Morning, everyone. This thing is on. It's on. Okay. Hi. So just to let you know, my name is Marilyn Joroge, and I'm a child participation coordinator with Save the Children, so like a partner organization to World Vision. So the project that I currently work on is on children and armed conflict, which is a sort of specialist area that we've been looking at as to how to get children in conflict-affected areas to participate and meaningfully engage. So that's in East Africa and West Africa. So just to answer, or rather to contribute to some of the questions that were asked on child participation tools, I mean, there are huge, there's a huge number of tools, depending on what the activity is and what the expected outcomes for the participation of children would be. And of course, these are also tailored based on gender, based on age, as well as the evolving capacity of children, such that you don't give them a particular tool or a topic to discuss and they actually can't participate in that. So that's one of the things that I would say. So maybe you can see me on the side. I mean, we have various tools such as, the H assessment, focus groups, for example, the empowerment star. There are quite a number. So you can see me on the side and then we can discuss. But yeah, we were also part of the development of the child participation guidelines that ADIAM presented on. So that's something that we've also been working on together with Mtoto News and other child rights organizations. So it's good to see that this has now come to fruition and we're able to capacity build. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adia, Marilyn. So I'm just going to ask you, if anybody with a question, please write them down. I'm going to ask somebody to come and collect, and then we can put them on the chat, and then Ediam is going to be able to respond, because we have another presentation from Yvonne, who is in a rush. She's jumping into another meeting, but we need to get her presentation, because it's a dive into the guidelines. I love IDM's presentation. It's just, everybody now start thinking. Remember the presentation from Bonyo? Okay, and what IDM has just presented. You can see the similarities, You can start seeing the gaps. So these gaps, I want you guys to note them down as you go to the group works. I'm hoping everybody of us did indicate which group we are going to be. So after break, you're going to go into group work and you're going to come up with how can we actualize, okay, in financing, how can you ensure that there's financing of child participation? In practice, how can we, if you don't have tools, or how can you actually ensure that these tools are known by everybody, okay? In monitoring, how do we don't have numbers, okay? How can you ensure that we have numbers, okay? In capacity, what is the capacity gap? What do we need to do in terms of capacity, okay? So I want, as this presentation are going, please start noting those things down. When you go for a group work, those are the things that you're going to be talking about. I'm going to invite Yvonne Taguirey. She is going to introduce herself and to take over. Yvonne?
Sure. All right. All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer, and to Adiam and the previous speakers. Like to just acknowledge the presence of the Secretariat of the African Committee of Experts, Adiam, and also the representative from the government of Kenya, as well as civil society, and most importantly, the children in the room. And really to thank Adiam for setting the tone for this presentation. And as she has already touched on a significant part of the guidelines, this was initially the presentation outline I had to really walk through the participants through the background and rationale of why the guidelines were developed, and also to really discuss the child participation in the activities of the committee. And section 3, which also deals with child participation in state parties, and then looking at auxiliary measures. However, already received quite a lot of information on section 1 and 2, and the purpose of my presentation will be then to delve more into detail around the state party's obligation, and in this case, what the government of Kenya should be putting in place as the necessary measures to advance child participation in the country. I'm glad to have listened to our representative from the NCC, as well as the representative from World Vision, giving us some of the important aspects around financing, issue of inclusion, and also the importance of legislative and policy frameworks in the country to advance this very important right, which also is a principle of children's rights. So RGM has really worked us through the normative frameworks that give effect to children's participation as they are enunciated in the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. She also took us through Agenda 2040 for children. But just to add that from Agenda 2040 for children, the overall AU Agenda 2063 in terms of the Africa we want, in particular paragraph 53 talks about an Africa that is driven by its people, where the voices of its citizens, particularly women and children, are heard. So Agenda 2040 really borrows from that Pan-African vision to ensure that the voices of Africans and African citizens are heard in governance and development processes. So we've also heard about the purpose and objectives of the child participation guidelines. And as mentioned by Adiam, the committee has a dual mandate in terms of its role to monitor and promote the implementation of the charter. So in its promotion mandate, it also drafts general comments, and Adiam had already explained that the committee will ensure that as it's drafting general comments to explain the provisions provisions of the Charter that it will solicit and consider children's views regarding the understanding and preference of the interpretation of a specific article of the Charter. And the committee can then collaborate with state parties and CSOs to translate any online surveys or any consultations into official AU languages, but also looking into national languages and simplified formats vis-a-vis sign language, particularly for children with special needs. So in the development of general comments, we also heard that it's very important for us to have validation processes of these general comments or the reports that the committee has drafted, and the importance of including children in these processes. I won't delve into the state party reporting procedure because Adiam has really done a fantastic job. In the state party procedure, there's also what is called the concluding observations, which are issued by the committee after it considers the state party and CSO complementary reports. So the guidelines also provide guidance that the committee should also be guided in terms of considering the comments that have been raised by children in any child-led reports that have been submitted before the committee, and any other relevant supplementary submissions that have been made by NGOs, or when children also attend pre-sessional working groups with the committee. So as the committee is engaging with children within the pre-sessions, the committee is guided to ensure that the discussions are child-friendly, in a child-friendly environment, allowing the committee delegation, as well as the NGO or the state party that is including children is delegation, to give children a specific time slot where they can engage with the committee as they are presenting their children's report, or when they are part of a delegation with a CSO group. So this is more or less when the state party report or CSO complementary report is being considered at committee level. However, we know that once the committee has issued concluding observations, there is a follow-up visit, and the committee should also ensure that they gather the views of children when they get into a country to follow up on concluding observations. Adiam has also touched upon the communications procedure. However, I just wanted to touch upon the issue around how children can also submit communications on any grave violation that has taken place in terms of any article of the Charter. And when possible, a child victim who is able to express his or her opinion can be informed of the communication that they'll present on behalf of themselves or behalf of other children, and this can be in a written format. And in instances where the committee has issued what is called a provisional measure, children who are subject to a communication, children should be provided feedback on the outcomes of a provisional measure or a decision that has been issued by the committee out of a communication or a complaint that has been submitted by any interested party or the children themselves. So we've also heard that the committee also does investigations where there is reports of grave violations, or when it seeks to conduct independent consultations on children, particularly in missions. So a particular attention should be placed by the committee to consult from children living in rural and urban settings, children with disabilities, and children living in IDP camps, as well as migrant and children living in alternative care settings. So the guidelines do guide the committee that once it goes into a country for an investigative mission or promotion mission, efforts should be made to also consult children to really understand the extent to which a violation has taken place, or the extent to which their rights are being promoted or protected by the state parties. And what has been increasingly working within the committee, and which the guidelines also touch upon, is how children can also be engaged with the committee during its ordinary and extraordinary sessions. And we would like to really commend the committee for now having issued a directive to work with the CSO forum, that at each of every opening session of the committee, they hear from the voices of children, for them to issue a statement before the committee on the recommendations that they're putting on behalf of other children in the continent around their issues. And the committee also strongly urges supporting organizations to have in place comprehensive child safeguarding policies and frameworks when children are attending AU-led events. And then the committee secretariat to also ensure that the ordinary session report is circulated to all state parties, and state parties should also, and other stakeholders should ensure that these reports eventually get to children as a feedback and accountability mechanism for children. So one key aspect which we all have seen as part of a well-accepted process for participation is the commemoration of the Day of the African Child. This is one of the common spaces where children have been participating, and the committee is guided to issue a concept note that would guide state parties and partners on the objectives of a specific theme of the Day of the African Child, and also guide member states on how they will report on the country level or district level or local level activities that children have engaged in with the Day of the African Child. In previous instances, the committee has been very progressive in terms of gathering children's views to identify specific themes of the Day of the African Child, and in previous themes, these have been identified by children, and the committee will continue to advance children's participation by working with NGOs to identify children who can come up with themes for subsequent Day of the African Child celebrations. So these were just some key aspects I wanted to touch on the role of the committee and what the guidelines spell out, particularly as the committee is advancing its protection and promotion mandate. When it comes to state levels, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, the child participation guidelines also really borrows in on the general measures of implementation, but also guides in terms of the key elements that need to be put in place in a state. And the first one is, as mentioned by Adiam, the obligation to ensure that this right is realized really lies with the state by virtue of ratification of this key regional instrument. So the state should put in place the necessary legislative, policy and regulatory and enforcement frameworks. And it's very good to hear that the government of Kenya has put in provisions in its constitution, as well as its children's legislation around the participation of children. And for us, we know that as governance processes, anything that is not costed, a policy that is not costed will become very difficult to implement. So the guidelines also call upon the government to put in place costed national child participation policies or strategies which should be costed, and over and above costing to then influence budget allocation, there must be measurable targets around how the participation of children is taking place at decentralized levels. And as mentioned in previous discussions, the government is called upon to make child-related, easily accessible information, and this could be both in inclusive, disability-friendly formats, and also in formats that are appropriate for even younger children as young as 5. So use of radio, television, libraries, books, and internet and helplines, as well as posters and other visual materials are encouraged for children to be able to know their rights, and also the legislation that gives effect to their participation. Over and above the legal and policy frameworks, the guidelines also provide guidelines to state parties in terms of how they can ensure the participation of children in administrative and judicial proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know that children can come into contact with the law either as witnesses or as victims in criminal or civil cases. So state parties are called to ensure that they advance a child-friendly justice system, which ensures procedural safeguards for children's participation in judicial proceedings. And this means that there are victim-friendly courts or child-friendly courts, and that these are costed and within the criminal procedure or civil procedure processes, that child witnesses are protected and they have support staff that protect them as they are providing evidence. So state parties should also ensure that a child's right to participate is not only subject to age limits or other arbitrary restrictions, either in law or practice. So what this means is that as children are participating, their age should be considered, and the evolving capacities should also be considered, and not have very strong restrictions around court processes that would hamper the effective participation of a child to give evidence or to support in the access to justice. So a child therefore cannot be effectively heard where the environment is intimidating, hostile or insensitive or inappropriate for his or her age. Therefore, governments are guided through the guidelines to ensure that proceedings in court are both accessible and child appropriate, and that there are necessary psychosocial support measures given to children. So states are called upon to make necessary human and financial investments in placing appropriate trained court staff, designing child-friendly courtrooms, and reconsideration of clothing of judges and lawyers within the justice processes. The state also has an obligation to train and build capacity and have awareness raising around children's participation. And I'm happy that this is one of the activities that could be considered as part of dissemination and awareness raising. So states are called upon to develop and strengthen education and awareness raising initiatives that combat negative cultural practices or attitudes around children's participation. So this could be included in the school curriculum around aspects of child agency and child participation, having teachers really starting to inculcate the issue of respect for the views of the child within the school systems, but also within community level and other cultural interventions, really addressing the negative or pre-existing notions that children can only be seen and not heard. And such awareness programs should include knowledge on preventative measures, and also, as articulated by ADIAM, really looking into what are the responsibilities of children as they are participating in decision-making processes, and how they can also take a role in protecting themselves. There's also an aspect that touched upon on child safeguarding. So states parties also work with non-state actors to have awareness raising programs that should enable children to identify some of the potential harms that they can encounter, particularly with the increased participation of children online. So to ensure that children are protected from self-harm and pornography and any other indecent material or hate speech that can come as a result of their participation. So the committee, out of these guidelines, also calls upon the state parties to develop capacity building strategies at national, subnational, and community levels with actors working with children, so that they embed child safeguarding measures in their trainings. The governments are also called to collaborate and coordinate at all levels, and in specific to work with national human rights institutions In this case, it will be the Kenya Human Rights Commission, where the commissioner can also support and working with the government or the relevant ministries to monitor the extent to which children's participation is taking place, and where the national human rights institutions are issuing human rights reports. NHIs are also called to coordinate and collaborate with the ministries to be able to gather the views and concerns of children. And also NHRIs have the role to independently monitor the extent to which children's views are listened to and how the government is giving due considerations to the rights of children. So human resource allocation has been mentioned, and by virtue of having a national costed implementation plan or strategy, this then means that in most instances there is some fiscus allocated, and states are obligated to allocate sufficient funds according to the progressive realization of these rights, and to ensure the satisfactory and meaningful implementation of the child's rights to participate at national level. So budget allocations should prioritize providing child-friendly spaces, informal settings, and also training skilled personnel within the relevant ministries to support children's participation. And state parties must also fund the establishment of child rights clubs, child parliaments, and children's councils, and also work in collaboration with CSOs. And financial resources should be allocated to create linkages of child participation structures that start from community, local, and district level up to a national level, in order to ensure that there is a continuum of systems and structures that provide for children's participation to be able to also raise their voices at national level. So coordination, ladies and gentlemen, can happen at different levels. So the committee urges state parties to establish child participation structures at subnational level, and also at community level, where the consultation with community leaders is also key, but also more importantly at family level, where a family is where is the most natural place where a child can participate. So the guidelines really ensure that we are guiding state parties to encourage family level participation. And in this instance, a parent is not only limited to a child's biological parent, but it also includes legal guardians, extended relatives, and child custody powers. So as you see, colleagues, the guidelines are seeing child participation not as a once-off event, but something that is systemic and really inculcated in our communities. And it must be a part of a living and constant process that should be prioritized from family level or to the global level. So this is the section that really touches upon the guidelines for the state. But Section 4 also looks into some auxiliary measures that state parties should consider as they are putting in place the necessary legislative, administrative, judiciary, and other measures. And as mentioned, child safeguarding is really at the heart of the committee's work. And they're really calling as the committee that all activities that are done by the committee itself, that are also done by civil society organizations supporting the involvement of children, both at national level and at committee level, consider the risks and have mitigation strategies to ensure that children safely are involved. And line of this, there are the 9 standards of child participation, which ensure that children participate in a safe and an enabling environment. The auxiliary measures also really then zero in the role of other stakeholders. So the guidelines identify the importance of a multi-stakeholder approach, and as mentioned, collaboration and coordination from family, community, subnational, national, and also at regional economic level is prioritized. So the guidelines provide in detail the role of the regional economic communities, and in this case, for Kenya, it would be the East African community, And I'm really glad to report that the EAC is one of the forthcoming regional economic communities that is advancing children's rights, and would also like to take into account the child participation guidelines and to domesticate it for its member states. So RECs are also encouraged to encourage regional integration in terms of standard setting and norm setting around child participation. And as mentioned, national human rights institutions also have a particular role to monitor how the state is in calculating child participation, and in any child rights violations also include children's voices. Civil society, private sector, and media also have a specific role in terms of augmenting government support. And this means through finances, also ensuring that they are supporting the sustainability of child participation structures, but also media ensuring that they are involving children safely when they are claiming their rights at national level. The auxiliary measures are also take into account the increased use of digital technology in light of COVID-19, but also the emerging issues around virtual participation and hybrid participation, sorry. So the committee acknowledges that technology can be used as a tool for child participation. So the committee will accept submissions of children that are submitted through emails, that are submitted through recorded videos, as well as facilitating participation of children via video conferencing. And where possible, the committee and its secretariat will also consider telephone interviews, particularly when conducting studies, and where necessary, they'll also have telephone interviews to just verify certain facts in terms of communications. So the committee is increasingly viewing technology as a key avenue for participation. And the committee will also set a special page in the website of the committee where child-friendly materials, as well as their social media pages, to enable children to reach the committee easily. So ladies and gentlemen, this is just a brief overview of what the guidelines speak to in terms of the role of the committee in advancing children's rights, as Adiam earlier mentioned, but also it looks into state party obligations, and then it looks into more specific auxiliary measures which should be taken into account. Thank you so much.
Beautiful presentation. So at this juncture, if anyone has a question for Yvonne, you are invited to come and ask. Any question? Do we have any question for Yvonne? Okay. So thank you so much, Yvonne, for that presentation. At this juncture, we are going to take a short break, whereby we will be back again with the group discussions and the workshop itself. So now I'm going to, we're going to, I think, take tea. But first, let me welcome Jennifer so that she can take us to the break.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you, ADM. I'm hoping you guys can stay with us because the next session is putting practicals to what you guys have spoken to us. Okay? So we just don't, as we said, when we were organizing this workshop, we said one of the things we said, it is not going to be a talk shop. We come, we talk, and then we go. No. I think right now from morning you have learned so much. Those ones who didn't know, because I think in the questions we asked, do you need anything about child participation? Someone told me I don't know, I've never heard. The first time I heard in your webinar, okay? So at least if you didn't know about child participation, right now you know about it. And I'm so glad, I believe in passing down the baton. I'm so glad we have a lot of young people here. So when some of us are exiting, we have people who can be able to continue with this work that we are doing on child participation. So, so we are going to have group work, okay? And this group work, we already have pre-selected your chairs depending on their level of expertise, okay? We are going to have, when you come from break, you will find the name of the group on the tables, okay? Please join that group, and you're going to have a discussion, okay? And you're going to have the group leaders. We're going to have a reporting template that we're going to use when we are answering those questions. So I need, I've seen Sheila. Oh, she left. I hope she's going to oh, she's here. Sorry, you are behind me. Okay, so I'm going to request the following people to stay back. Sheila, Mombi, Martin, Marilyn, and George. Please stay behind as the rest of the guys are taking tea break. Thank you.